So we've talked a lot about fusibles and how I love them, and yes, they are crucial to flawless embroidery. And I've talked a lot about hooping and your floaters and that type thing, but now I want to move into an area of embroidery that we've all encountered, embroidery on products or items that we can't hoop. That are hard to hoop, that maybe the fabric could get damaged if we try to hoop them. A great example of that would be velvet. I've got a little bag here. By the way, drawstring bags are really trending and they are so easy to make. So you definitely want to get on that bandwagon. This is a great gift for summer graduations, all types of things, really, really good. Even for baby showers, you can do baby designs. But back on track, this is velvet. So this is a fabric that I definitely would not hoop just because of the fabric type. Some types of fabrics can be crushed, like velveteen or even like a velour type terry. Those are also hard to hoop. Towels are hard to hoop. I would definitely not want to do that. And also, again, you may get a ring from your hoop. I call that hoop burn. That's a definite scenario where I would want to use a sticky tearaway, a sticky stabilizer. So that's where we're going to hang out for a little while and talk about the various types of sticky tearaway and how to use that. And but your fabric type will definitely do that. What if I were wanting to do some embroidery on the bottom of a hand towel? This is a great example of where I would want to use my sticky tearaway. A hat, if I wanted to do corners of napkins or a collar, a cuff. How about a sock? If I wanted to embroider a sock, there's no way that I could hoop that. I would need to stick it down. So that's what we're going to talk about. One of the most important steps in sticking things down is to prep the fabric, just like we talked about earlier about pre-washing your fabric, and I still stand by that. I think that's important. But what I mean by that is just sticking an item down is not always the best method. What I recommend doing is, if the fabric is a quilt cotton, or this is a great example. This is just a little dish rag that I embroidered. But what I did is I prepped the fabric first with my fusible tearaway. And if you remember, we have two kinds. We have our heat and stay tearaway, and then we have our stitch and wash fusible as well, both kinds of tearaway. Got those here. And so that's very important to prep the fabric and then stick it down. I promise you will see a huge difference in your embroidery if you do this. Very, very important to prep the fabric before sticking it down. And we're going to talk about that when we get to the cutaways as well. You can't expect the sticky to do everything. Also, if you've got something big and bulky like beach towel or again, that velvet bag that I was just holding up, use your basting feature on your machine. Once you get, let's get my hoop here. Once you get your item stuck down to the frame, use your basting feature to give you a little bit of extra hold on that sticky, because the weight of that towel hanging off the front or the back of your machine could definitely pull at the tension of it being stuck onto the hoop. So what do we mean by sticky stabilizer? We call ours Perfect Stick Tearaway. And it took me a long time to develop this amazing product because I wanted the adhesive to be perfect, just like its name. Back in the day, back when the embroidery boom started happening and I was in my retail store, I experienced a lot of different sticky products that were out there, and they were sticky papers. Do you remember those days? And they still exist. Sticky paper is very different than our Floriani Perfect Stick Tearaway. Very, very different. I use the highest quality fibers, the most dense fibers when I build this product. So I take, I'm gonna give you my recipe here. I take my Stitch and Wash foundation, which if you remember is half tearaway, half wash away. This is my awesome foundation that I build this on so that it's easy to remove. And then I layer it with an exclusive adhesive that will not gum up your needle. That was the most important thing to me, and it took several years to get this formula where it would not gum up your needle, and I'm so happy to have that in our Perfect Stick Tearaway. A wonderful product for holding hard to hoop items in place. And gummy needles are no fun, so I wanted that to be part of this package. So the way you use this product is you're going to hoop it in your embroidery frame with the paper side facing up. Then you're going to just take a straight pin, or if you have that stiletto that came in your toolkit, that's where I would use this. And then I am simply going to draw an X with my straight pin or my stiletto, lift up the corner, peel back the paper, and there is my exposed sticky surface. Absolutely ready for me to stick down anything. It could be a jeans leg or a hat or a sock, whatever. So we've got this all removed. Now we're ready to stick our item down into the embroidery frame. So here's a tip for you as well. I usually have, when I'm hooping, I will have my cutting mat, and I will actually stick my item down while the hoop is over the cutting mat, so the lines actually shadow through, so I can center my piece on the hoop. Or you can take a Frixion pen or a water-soluble pen, whatever marking pen that you like to use, and you can actually draw on the sticky surface so that you'll have lines to line up your piece that you're sticking down. And remember that you want to baste. Now, going back to sticky paper versus sticky tearaway, the adhesive was certainly important to me. The foundation that we built it on was certainly important to me. But there is a considerable difference when you're using a fiber-based product versus a paper. So very, very important to establish the difference there. I've had this sample for several years, and I love to show this. This is, again, just a very basic design, but I'm stitching it in polar fleece. And I want you to see the difference. Same design, same fabric, same thread, same machine. The difference in stitching on a sticky paper versus a sticky stabilizer. And the camera will hopefully get up close enough where you can see jumped outlines and cupping of the embroidery. You have to give the embroidery the fiber. Remember what we talked about in our previous segment. Fiber counts. If you're not giving the design the fiber that it needs, such as our Perfect Stick Tearaway, the design is going to cup or bowl. So very, very important to give it the fiber it needs. Now, with that said, let's talk about bigger designs in items that you are sticking down. If you go over the 10,000 stitch count rule, or if you're doing a design that's ultra dense, or maybe, like I said earlier, maybe it's an animal, something that's very stitch intensive in certain parts, it may be necessary for you to use a floater. So same rules apply. You're going to have your item stuck down. You want to have it basted. You want to have your topping in place. Once you get the hoop on the machine and you have the centering, you have everything where you want it to be, then you're going to take your floater, which I like to use Stitch and Wash. I prefer Stitch and Wash for my floater when I'm using my Perfect Stick Tearaway because they're built of the same materials. Remember, they're easy to remove. Then I'm going to just float that right underneath for added support. When in doubt, float. It just gives you that extra stability. Then when the stitching is finished, here's where the magic starts. When the stitching is done, you can lay a damp cloth over the back, and remember, this base material is going to start letting go of the embroidery so that you can tear it away easily. Also, my adhesive formula for Perfect Stick is water soluble. So if you're doing loopy towels or terry cloth or something that you're pulling the loops out, don't just start pulling. Lay that damp cloth on there, and that's going to start the release process so that you don't damage the fabric. Now, if you're doing something super tiny or in an area that you're afraid will roll over and get back under the machine needle, don't forget to use your Embroidery Perfection tape. This is a sock, as you can see, and I have the sock stuck down, and then I use my Embroidery Perfection tape. That's this product right here. And I'm going to use that Embroidery Perfection tape to hold everything in place so that the needle will stitch where I need it to be, right in the center. I don't have to worry about the sock rolling over. This stuff is awesome. It's so good. It's like an extra set of hands to have in your sewing room. So always keep a roll of this beside your embroidery machine. That is a tool that you can't live without, and it does not leave a residue on the sock or the hoop or your machine. So that's how you would hoop in a tube or something small. So rules for using a sticky tearaway. Always paper side up when you're hooping. Score it, but not too deep. Peel back the release paper. Stick your item down. Baste it if you can. And remember not to rely completely on the sticky. That's by basting or by prepping your fabric, if you can, with a fusible before sticking it down. And then use a floater if you need some extra stability. So that is our perfect stick tearaway, and you are going to love using it.